I received the call from the Fred Hollows Foundation, I was gobsmacked, and even my colleague who'd nominated me hadn't twigged, because obviously Fred Hollows was famous with his eye surgery, etc. I found it all very fortuitous that I was nominated for something, organised in honour of Fred, because my daughter's actually blind in her left eye. So this is all just very, very cosmic, very cosmic for me. And it was funny because I spoke to my work colleague Kari, who nominated me, and I said, did you even twig when you nominated me for this award? She said, no, I didn't. I really didn't. So it was just all very cosmic.
Yeah, how do you feel about being nominated as Humanitarian of the Year?
Overwhelmed, gobsmacked, very overwhelmed, I'll say. It was certainly quite a surprise. That same work colleague got word from the Hollows Foundation that I'd been sort of, after the processes, Gabby Hollows and the board of other people that she works with, filtered through all the nominations, and they told her that I was a Queensland finalist and they wanted to get my contact details off her. And so when I got the phone call from the Fred Hollows Foundation, it was very overwhelming and to be honest, still very much is.
You work as an emergency medical dispatcher with the Queensland Ambulance Service. What does that role involve?
The role of emergency medical dispatcher, there's sort of two parts to it. When you're performing call-taking duties, you're receiving 000 calls and non-emergency calls, both from the public and medical centres, hospitals, etc. Obviously, in the case of 000 calls, it's obviously members of the public calling for assistance from the ambulance for an emergency, obviously, with someone. We also receive calls from hospitals and medical centres coordinating patient transports between nursing homes and appointments and those sorts of things. And if you're performing the role of dispatcher on your shift, then you're the one that sends the ambulance out to the emergency. So you're coordinating the most appropriate resource to each emergency, and then if that initial resource arrives and says they need further assistance, then you coordinate for that as well.
How did you find yourself in the role?
I was originally working in the rural industry at the time of seeing the advertisement in the paper. I was working as a recruitment consultant with a firm here in Rockhampton, recruiting staff for the rural industry. I'd been in the rural industry my whole life. Decided I needed a bit of a change and was reading the paper one day and saw the role advertised. Having lived on cattle stations in my childhood and pre-living in town years, I came to have a appreciation for emergency health. We used to have to use the RFDS for any sort of dire emergencies on the stations, and I knew that the Queensland Ambulance was instrumental in coordinating emergency responses, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Sort of what type of person do you think is needed in a role like that? I'm sure you have to be really calm but compassionate, but also be able to think clearly and give clear instructions or to people who are in situations that are quite frantic and quite chaotic to them.
Absolutely. Like, obviously, each time you pick up the call, you don't know what you're going to get. So you have to be able to communicate with a diverse range of people. Some of our callers are very calm in the face of really, really challenging situations. Some of our callers are very frantic in the face of not so challenging situations. I always say that everyone's definition of an emergency is quite different. So definitely need to be able to maintain your calm and obviously therefore be able to assist others in becoming a little more calm so they can get the information across to you. And then obviously because you're on the phone, you can only use your voice to control a situation. So you need to be able to build very quickly a rapport with your caller so then you can get them to do what you need them to do to help the patient on scene and until the ambulance can arrive. That could, range anywhere from applying pressure to bleeding to performing CPR on someone until the ambulance arrives.
Is there some particular cases that are memorable where you've done something to help someone in a really difficult situation?
Yeah, there's definitely cases that will stick with me for a very long time. One of my most memorable cases was when I delivered a baby over the phone. I had a gentleman call me saying he they were on their way to their closest town, but they very quickly realised they weren't going to make it and pulled over. And, so I helped him deliver his little baby girl over the phone. And then much to my delight, they wanted to meet me. So I actually got to go to the hospital where they were very soon after that to meet them in person. And then I actually went to that little girl's christening. I was invited to her christening, and they recently actually found me on Facebook, would you believe? And, so I've seen photos of her since. And, that was back in, my son was born, so that was back in 2012.
It's lovely.
That was one of my most memorable cases. There's been, many, many, many others as well, but that's one of my most memorable.
I was going to ask you, have you noticed a shift in society in recent times to a place where people are more or less willing to help each other?
Yeah, I think, we've, especially with the environment of COVID, I think people realise we're all in this together, and that, things like COVID, they don't target one specific type of person. Like it could be anybody. And I think in these uncertain times, I think people are looking for that sense of community and sense of safety in having that support network around them.
You seem like a fairly modest person, but I must ask, why should people vote for you as the Fred Holloway's Humanitarian of the Year?
Oh gosh, I'm very uncomfortable with that question. I think I'm just a person who goes out there and just tries to do the best with what they've got and tries to help people as best I can with the resources I've got. And as much as this recognises that, I don't think people should do good things just for the recognition of it. Just do good things because it's the right thing to do.